I got a great question about how do you open up your game to give it access to the community. And so this is on YouTube from Sandwich2473. I presume when you say you give them access to source control, the permissions would be something along the lines of they can submit pull requests, but then you'll review each submission to make sure there's nothing malicious or broken in there. Nope. One of the important things my thought was some of what they're saying that they want to do to the game, I disagree with. Some of it is design choices that I don't agree with. Now, I want to make sure that there's the game that'll exist, and then there's their changes to the game, which is the new mode, right? And the two can exist side by side, but I don't influence their choices. I'm going to let them do things that in my brain is broken. Now, what I won't let them do is crash the game. What I won't let them do is kill perf. What I won't let them do is things like that. But so to that, I'm not going to open it up in that way. The other thing is, I hear a lot of people talking about wanting to save games, and they're all so that they're going to save games, and they have no idea what they're talking about. And I've tried to talk about this before, but it's a really good example. So we want to open it up. We can't just put the whole thing on Git and just say, hey, everybody can grab everything. No, because there's a bunch of stuff we use, a bunch of third-party like Wise or Vivox that have codes and code that they supply with us for using them. We can't open that up for everybody. We also have art that we purchased and then modified, but we can't have that up there because no one else can use that. Like if you want to use something from the Anacrusis, just ask me. If you want to use characters, I'll give you everything because we own that entirely. But there's like pipes and weird stuff, right? And I respect the ownership of the author of that stuff, right? And same with we use some sound libraries. Now we change all the sound libraries. All the music is original. But there's an occasional one that's like, we needed a bucket falling. We got a bucket falling audio. That library allows us to use it as one use case. It does not allow us to open it up to give access to everybody to use that. And so we have to be, respectful of that. But so what we did was we worked it out with giving limited access. And I do want to open this up more and trying to figure out some ways, because there's some ways we can obfuscate. Yeah, I can't talk. I had dental surgery this morning. I tried to make this video earlier and I was drooling. 3 times the normal amount of numb thing they had to put in there because I got something weird with my jaw. It hurts. Which is the day before I have to make these, like the day I'm making these kind of things to promote our update. It's never easy. All right. But so there's ways that we could hide some of that stuff. Sure. But we also want to make them be able to make changes and make local builds and be able to understand that. And when they think it's good, they submit it to the build server and then we play test it. And so that's where we have to thank the rest of the community to also just play test it. And they tested all this to make sure it didn't crash and everything else. Now, these people also had to sign to have access to this because it was just part of the process. It was a sucky thing, but we needed them to sign to have access to this. And it's just a simple thing, right? But it is letting them, because of the licenses we have with other people, to allow them to have that. And so that's how we did it. And so I didn't want to have to review code. I didn't want to have to review what people were putting in. Now, when we're at the very end and we're saying this is the candidate build, and this is the only thing that's going in, and we want to be really persnickety about changes and some of that, and some of that really set us back because we were getting crashes in and stuff. And I'm really hardcore, and I think some people weren't used to that, where no, this is our candidate. Even though there's things that will make the game better, this is our candidate. We're going to make the bug fixes we are, and nothing more. Zero more. Nothing more. Like we have Korean translation waiting to get added. Can't add it. But you're saying Korean translation won't break the game. I'm missing commas, missing semicolon from somewhere. Something gets scrambled. Oh, you would not believe the amount of things that could break a game. Everything can break a game. So when you get close and you want to have the build, you have to say no more. And that's what we did. And so we went through that process. And that's the only time that I was really looking at what was being submitted. Otherwise, we try to open it up and let them do anything they want within reason, right? And that's why I think we got some really cool stuff. And then, even with that, we then froze that code and say, okay, this is ready. Now, we need to make videos. We need to make graphics. We need to talk about this. We need to make the list. And so you'll see this will not have a traditional Valve list, just because working with different people, you get different feedback when you say something like, I want the most detailed, crazy anal list of everything that got changed. Because if you notice that, we often do that in Valve. And that's just like kind of like a little, I don't know. It's a little way to really let everybody know that there's a ton of work that went in here, and there's a bunch of weird little things in here that you may not even realize that we kind of just gloss over. And you're getting more of a cleaned up version of that. And that's how some people do it. And that's not how I normally do it, but we'll do it here. And just like there's a lot of that back and forth with this, because it was a lot of times I would just stop and go, okay, well, that's the way I do it, but is that the right way to do it, or is that just the way I do it? And if that's the way I do it and somebody else is doing it differently, maybe we should do it differently. A couple of the things that I put my foot down on, one was the video, the trailer video, because that will go on the Steam page and that will be shared and that will live. And either I'm going to not want to put it on there, I'm only going to want to put it on there for a limited time, or, hey, I've made a lot of trailers in my life. Here's some good rules. And we actually then had somebody else step up and do the trailer. And that was cool. But it's also this weird of like, that's just like so much of this was made. And then so much of this were people just doing little things around it that helped. And then I've realized we have to do a hot patch soon after. And that is to update the credits to include the people who did the work. Because I think that's important that they be reflected in the game. And show that work. But yeah. It really wasn't about opening it up to everybody because of licensing. And that's the thing that I don't think a lot of those movements understand. They think that it's like this monolithic code base, or that's how you should make games, man. Make your own engine. Make every single piece of code your own. Actually, one of our engineers wanted to release some of our code because he thought it was helpful for other Unreal engineers. And I forget where it is, but it's out there somewhere, because it's like, yeah, that's awesome. But equally, we have to respect when we use somebody else's code or somebody else's project, we have to respect the rules around it. And so we do. And so that meant limited input of people coming in, but then not caring about what they did on the output, because the game testing would solve that problem. But that has resulted in, we will do this update, which is a big update, and we will do a hot fix update that has a whole bunch of other stuff. And I don't want to lead with this. As I've gotten older, I've just gotten less about the marketing. But remember, come on down to Steam tomorrow and get 75% off. No, but it is 75% off tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then we'll do that for a week, and then we'll go into the summer sale and we'll do 50% off. And I can talk about why we do one at 75 and the other at 50, because I can explain that one.